Hello everybody and welcome to the 5th and final installment of Can You Beat Isaac with only items of the same quality. Today is the day where we talk about the elephant in the room. So ever since I started this challenge, the quality 0 run was the one that people most anticipated. But before we get into the details of the agony that I put myself through as part of this challenge, for all you first-time viewers, here's a quick refresher of what we're doing here. Items in the Binding of Isaac are grouped into rarity tiers, referred to in the game as item quality. Item quality roughly determines how good an item is, and it also makes them more rare or more common based on their respective quality. Item quality in the Binding of Isaac ranges from 0, the worst items in the game, to 4, the best items. With that being said, my first attempt of this challenge, and yes, spoiler alert, there were multiple attempts to this challenge, actually went pretty nicely. Early on, we found the brown nugget, which later on turned out to be a true MVP in this challenge. Brown Nugget is a space use item that lets you create a blue pop-up fly in the room and instantly goes on an automatic recharge, so there's an unlimited amount of pop-up flies you can make per room, which is really nice in these lengthy boss fights where you actually get the chance to create multiple of them. Aside from that, much like in the tier 1 challenge, these first few floors weren't that big of a hassle because they're pretty much meant to be beaten on base damage. So instead of boring you with a really sluggish floor 2, here's a quick rundown of what we found. We got a linger bean from our boss fight, and after reluctantly going into a devil deal, which I later on decided wasn't really worth it, I skipped over a dunce cap and what might look like a Book of Belial, but is actually not. That item is the passive that Judas gets when he finds Birthright, which turns his Book of Belial into a passive similar to the Book of Virtues on Bethany, and it doesn't actually do anything if you're not Judas. So after searching literally the entire floor for a key, because this challenge apparently wasn't hard enough, thanks game, I find my way into my item room, which only has a box of stuff. But stuff fortunately also includes a reverse moon card, which takes me to my ultra secret room and gives me Abel, who is actually pretty solid in this challenge. I mean, I know he doesn't really hit reliably, but he ups my firepower. Now Caves 2 is where I start to realize that staying on base damage all run is actually tougher than I thought. We continue to see more champions, enemies have bigger health pools, and in general everything is a giant pain in the butt to take out. And speaking of giant pain, there's the knife piece too, which is a story based item, but it is labeled in the code as quality 0, so we find it as part of the challenge. And this thing is actually able to inflict giant pain on the enemies if I can find the knife piece 1. I run into Sloth later on the floor and he decides to drop me Missing No. Now this is the item that we've been looking for, as Missing No is able to completely carry the run by itself. It rerolls your entire build at the start of the floor and it can actually give me items outside of quality 0. So naturally, there was no way I was going to take that because I'm not going to cheese my way out of this challenge. It's either all quality 0 items or bust. In fact, when I picked up the knife piece too, I even shortly considered banning that, as it does a massive amount of damage. It doesn't really align with the spirit of this challenge, but at that point I decided I'm just going to see if I can even assemble the thing, and when I do, what kind of effect it would have on the run. I enter case 2 and end up beelining to the store, and after an internal debate on whether I should risk half my HP on that red card, I'm gonna head into the store and find 10 bombs, which is another one of those really solid items for this challenge. Ultimately, my greed does end up getting the better of me and I get that card. It turns out to be 2 of clubs to double my bombs, which is amazing. This is easily the best card that I could have found here. And this is probably a good time to mention that bombs are also an incredible asset in this challenge. Being stuck at 3.5 damage and having bombs that deal a baseline of 100 damage is just amazing. And that's why I need to save and carefully use these bombs at the best times to maximize their value, just like the one I just used and didn't even hit one of the 2 guys with. The second part of this Fallen fight ends up going off the rails, as Fallen deals a full 100 damage when he touches you, and I hang on by the skin of my teeth with a single heart. Fallen is still gracious enough to give me an actual devil item, but, well, I don't really have a use for blood rights. Since I'm now down to 1 heart, I at least have the privilege of checking out the boss challenge room, and turning all flies friendly for the rest of the run seems pretty nice to me. I also have that hermit card, which allows me to bounce out of here, and with that Scatoli in my arsenal, I already feel a lot better about this run. I really don't. Outside of the item room, we find a Bible track to increase my Eternal Heart chance, which is probably too little too late, and a Strange Attractor, which we really don't care about. And with 2.5 hearts, depths is where we really start to feel that base damage. And while there was no room that completely wrecked me, the damage just accumulated over time pretty quickly. Oh! Oh! Nah. Oops. Rooms are starting to take considerably longer, and even if there's some hope on the horizon with that 2 of clubs giving me 40 bombs and an infestation 2 for some revenge damage, it's definitely becoming really clear to me that I need something more to be able to beat this run. War ends up going down pretty easily, and even though the reward he gives me is absolute garbage, we do get an angel room, and the angel presents me with an interesting proposition. Data miner. Do I gamble on that? It ups and downs a random stat. I'm chancing it. Plus range, minus luck. Data miner is permanently altering stat attributes or something I hadn't actually considered ahead of this run, but it does seem like a nice way to get damage. Ultimately, I decide to keep my brown nugget because I figure it's a really good boss item and I kind of just want to stay on my build for now. But it's definitely something I plan to keep in mind for later runs. After looking for a key for a short while, I go into my item room and I find a broken glass cannon, which is technically labeled a quality 0 item. You can pick it up and fix it, but the problem is the glass cannon itself is a quality 1 item, and I don't want to use that for this challenge. So after having skipped the last 3 or so items, the game thinks I'm not punished enough yet and runs me into greed in the secret room. So with him dropping another useless item on me that I don't want to take, I'm still stuck here with basically what I had at the start of Caves. And my little detour to the store unfortunately costs me the entire rest of my remaining HP. Now the good news is, between the reroll machine in the store and my remaining money, I get back to 4.5 hearts, which should hopefully be enough to beat Mom's foot. And thanks to my army of grandfather flies, it turns out it is enough. So with the Polaroid in my arsenal, I make my way to Womb 1 and have to quickly realize that I am absolutely not equipped for these floors. I quickly lose my first heart, and then... So, I won't lie, this first attempt, it looked pretty grim, but at the time I had already been streaming for almost 5 hours because I recorded all these item challenges in succession. I decided to give it a rest and come back to it to a later time. So far, I wasn't really sure at this point in time if I was going to be able to complete this challenge, but the next day should hold a few surprises for me. In the following, I will be showing you every attempt I did at this challenge, but for the sake of keeping the video short, I will be keeping them a lot shorter. Real quick, before we go on, making these videos takes a lot of time. This video alone took me over 10 hours of my time to create, so if you would like to support me, I would really appreciate if you could leave a like and a sub on the video, and if you have the time, leave a comment and let me know what you enjoyed about the video and what you didn't. So, my second attempt of this challenge gave me an early plan C, which is exciting, but not really useful until the end of the run. We found a shade pretty quickly, and by the time we finished Caves 2, we really didn't have a lot. So, to the surprise of absolutely no one, the run found its grim end at the end of Depths against Mom. Run number 3 started out similarly trolly, with the game giving me the entire Mega Satan key right off the bat in Basement 1. Basement 2 didn't really look too much better, with a black bean and the poop. And despite heading into Caves with virtually no items and 3.5 hearts, I somehow managed to claw my way through. The build, however, did not really improve. We have a quarter, which doesn't do anything by itself, and while we managed to pick up little baggy, pills are a bit of a wild card, but it did feel like it was worth it in a challenge like this to gamble on some high value pills. Somehow though, I did manage to get through the floors, and we even gained a heart on the way. At the end of Depths 1, I finally found an item that should become instrumental in this challenge, which is Cursed Eye. Now, you see me walk away from this initially because I still had to decide what I wanted to do, but let's take this moment to talk about Cursed Eye for a bit. Cursed Eye is an item that's usually the butt of many jokes. It's an item which, upon pickup, gives you a charged shot, which lets you fire multiple tiers at once, depending on the amount of charge, but if you get hit while you have neither a full nor an empty charge on your Cursed Eye, you get teleported out of the room. Since rooms in the Binding of Isaac fully reset if you leave them before clearing them, that puts Cursed Eye in a really weird position where it's technically a good item, but if you get hit mid-boss fight, you're gonna get teleported out and you're gonna have to start the entire fight over. That's not only frustrating, but it can also get you stuck on boss fights to the point where you cannot clear the run because you can't manage to finish the boss fight. And as you take these hits, your health continuously dwindles to the point where you eventually lose the run. I mean... Run number 4 ended up being pretty unspectacular as I decided to get frisky mid-runs and finally start popping pills. However, that first pill I popped ended up being a tears down, which led to me rage quitting the run like 2 or 3 rooms later. For run number 5, I decided something finally had to change and I decided to switch to normal mode. Normal mode makes the game significantly easier as you get a lot more HP drops, and also enemies and enemy tiers are generally a lot slower. The run starts out pretty promising with Data Miner, which upon use ups a random stat of yours and lowers a random stat of yours. I got unlucky on the first roll, lowering my damage but upping my tier rate, but this is a really promising item for this challenge since it's one of the very limited few ways that I can gain damage. The item also immediately redeems itself by giving me back the damage but lowering my speed, and now for the first time ever since starting this challenge, I'm finally positive on damage output. As expected, the basement bosses go down without much of a problem and decide to give me nothing of value, and even the data miner users on this floor were mostly against me, since while I got my speed back up to the starting stat, I lowered my tier rate again back to my starting stat. After a pretty casual stroll through the caves, I managed to finish my floor with 0.4 speed, which is really close to the minimum of 0.1, and an upped tier rate and damage. While I'm usually a pretty big proponent of move speed, I do realize that for this challenge, damage is going to be of the essence, so I don't really mind being as slow as I am as long as I have the damage output to keep up with the enemies. Unfortunately, however, in this particular run, the game never really gave me a lot of health, so I go to depths with only 4 hearts, and never really managed to recover from that. And to top it all off, on Womb 1, I run into an old friend. No, dude! Really? Now, this is not a matriarch discussion video, that might come in the future, but can we talk about how much more difficult this boss is than any other boss on Womb 1? A few months back, I did a challenge where I tried to prove that you can beat the Binding of Isaac with only Mom's Knife, and I don't know how many of my runs this guy ended. Matriarch is an insanely difficult boss, and every time I do a challenge run like this, I pray to RNGesus that I'm not gonna run into this boss. Oh, for the love of Christ. Okay, the game really tried to end the run there, but I wouldn't let it. So after this train wreck, you'd think I'm unstoppable. That's certainly how I felt. And I made my way to Mom's heart pretty confident in my ability to beat her. This time around, I brought 19 bombs, which are insanely useful in this fight because you can use them to instantly give the waves that she spawns in. And at this point, I once again cannot overstate the importance of bombs for a challenge like this. Bombs do 100 damage apiece. With my tiers being at 6.5 damage, it is instrumental to keep your bombs for the late game. It lives goes down without much of a hassle, but now in the Cathedral is finally the time where I start to realize how much my move speed is going to hurt me. Best thing if we make it to the chest. Oh god. The more bullet hellish rooms, especially including angels, are really hard to manage with a slow build like this, and my damage doesn't quite cut it to take out the angels in time. And with them randomly teleporting and cutting me off from my intended paths, it becomes apparent rather quickly that this build is yet again one that doesn't have what it takes to beat the Cathedral. Attempt number 6 was yet another really interesting one, as I managed to amass a lot of HP early on. But unfortunately, the game had different plans for me because, well, I'm just gonna let this next clip speak for itself. What's wrong with TM Trainer? Oh, come on! You... No. Oh. So that run concluded my second day of attempting this challenge. With a total of 7 tries so far, it was clear to me at this point that I can definitely do this, at least on normal mode. With the increased heart drops, there was definitely an end in sight, and I was positive I could do this. However, I did decide to take a few weeks break from the challenge to set up what ended up being my first ever YouTube stream. The VOD is still up on my YouTube channel, and I will be linking it in the video description along with all the other parts of this challenge if you want to check them out. And with that being said, what's gonna follow is the most promising attempt I had at this challenge, taken from my YouTube stream. So after letting this rest for a few weeks, we came back to it and did this live on YouTube. I was gonna give this my last few attempts to try and see if I can beat this challenge. And on the second attempt of the stream, which makes attempt number 8 in total, we got a really promising run. We start off the item room with Dad's Note, which is somehow marked as a quality 0 item and normally the item that triggers the ascent. And after a bit of deliberation, I was like, let's give it a shot. Let's pick up Dad's Note and see how far I can get in the ascent. Yeah, apparently picking up Dad's Note outside of Mausoleum doesn't do anything, so we just got stuck with the dead item on basement 1. However, that was about to change real fast when we entered the store and saw a data miner. And to make a long floor short, after milking the entire floor, finding a blood donation machine in my ultra secret room, and spending literally all my health on making the money necessary, I managed to pick up the data miner. With my first data miner use in tow and only giving me a range up and a luck down, which is not too bad on the grand scale of things, I managed to get past Little Horn. I managed to find myself a best bud, which gives me a high damage fly orbital for 1 room every time I get hit. And before I leave to the second floor, I decided to put my remaining red health into the blood donation machine. Happy with that? I'll convert all my red health into... Okay. So I've talked about Cursed Eye and Data Miner being instrumental to the success of this challenge before, but this is the first run where I managed to get both of them, and not just get both of them, but get them early on. So I decided this must be my time, right? This is the run where we're gonna put everything on the line and try to make this happen. And in fact, Data Miner agreed, because it promptly gave me a shot speed down and a damage up, which is one of the perfect outcomes for this item use. The rest of the floor went fairly uneventful, with Data Miner giving me another range up and shot speed down. Not too bad, not too good. And the little hushy from my item room wasn't too impressive either. Monstro, however, decided to provide me with the goods, or at least half the goods. And with 2.5 hearts and undoubtedly the best attempt I've had so far, I made my way to caves. So not really expecting much coming into this caves, I would immediately find something that ended up being a huge boon to this run. Golden Bible track, plus 6% chance for Eternal Hearts. Alright, so with a half Eternal Heart having a chance of 1.8% to spawn every time the game drops you a heart, the Golden Bible tract is going to elevate that chance to 7.8%. That is 7.8% every time a heart drops to get a health up in a challenge that doesn't have health ups. On top of that, I take my newfound riches to the store and find the knife piece too, so now we even have the full throwable alt path knife. At this point, I have a build that I know can go far. So we finish up our caves and promptly hit jackpot again from our boss item. And while this floor's angel room was a bust, there's really not a whole lot I can complain about at this point in the run. Seriously, what are these data miner rolls? These are out of this world. On caves 2, the data miner streak continues by giving me a speed up and further lowering my shot speed, which can't go down further at this point. And after finding a question card, which lets me use my space item for free, the luck just continues. Lost damage! So yeah, with Data Miner proving furthermore that it has my back, we make our way further through the caves, pick up a bunch of pocket change. And by the way, did you know that you can bomb poops that are close to holes and the game is going to treat them like rocks and create a path for you? So after picking up Spider Baby and getting 2 more god rolls on my Data Miner, it's finally time to face the boss of case 1. So at this point, stat-wise, we're even above average for non-challenge conditions, and oh my god. If I could get the health that I had on the last run, we would be in insane shape. In insane shape. Damage down, tears up. That must have been shot speed up and speed down. And that was damage up and shot speed down again. I take a quick detour to the Super Secret Room's blood donation machine to stock up on spiders and money, and then I finally head to the depths, pretty confident about this run. Depths 1 continues a good luck streak by giving me a Scatoli in the item room, which makes flies either friendly or at least less aggressive. And while the rest of the floor was rather unimpressive aside from a Hierophant card, I think this war fight that's coming up is a pretty great example of where we stand in this run. Oh, okay. Well, we're a fly. Lord of the Flies is a phenomenal find. Not just heading into depths where there's a bunch of these fly spawning enemies that you can see on the screen right now, but also for the sheer mobility that flight provides us. And as if that wasn't enough, we head into the item room and find an old friend. Finding the brown nugget at this stage of the run honestly felt kind of poetic, because it's one of the items that at the very start of the challenge, I labeled one of the best for this run. So honestly, I thought to myself, this is it. If I can't beat this run, then I'm not going to be able to complete this challenge at all. This was the moment where I realized that I had to put all my ISAC knowledge and all my ISAC skill to the test to try and see this run to the end. Without Data Miner, I also knew my stats weren't going to change at all anymore either, but I did have the Emperor card to help me get through the chest, and my Angel Room, while not the most impressive, at least provided me with a bit more passive damage on hit. I make my way through Womb 1, and let's be honest here, nothing interesting ever happens in Womb 1, and since I don't have to fight the Matriarch this time, I also get to keep my health. The rest of the floor provides me with a whole lot of nothing, and I quickly head to Womb 2. Oops. Okay, that's the first hit I've taken in forever, so I'm actually kind of happy with that, but... Yeah, remember when I said my stats weren't going to change for the rest of the run? Turns out that was a lie. So with a whopping 8.5 points of damage, I head to Mom's Heart, and the boss fight itself with stats like these is really not that big of a deal. However, I do need to be careful at all times, because Cursed Eye still has the danger of teleporting me out of the room at any point in time. Fortunately, I do manage to first try it, and we can safely make our way to the cathedral after getting thoroughly disappointed by the Angel Room. Alright, come on. Come on. Come on. Cathedral ends up not being as bad as I anticipated, and I even end up making some friends along the way. Shoutouts to the fly transformation, by the way. Without much trouble, I managed to find the ISAC boss fight, and while I still need to be careful because of Cursed Eye, on my third attempt I finally managed to take down ISAC with 7 hearts remaining, 8.5 damage, and 2.66 tier rate. I just gotta be super careful about the Cursed Eye here, and I'm fine. Look at that, he even spawns friends for me. Get him, boys. Get him, boys. Don't do that. GG! If you found this video entertaining, let me know in the comments, and if you have any other ideas for challenges I can do in the future, make sure to write them down in the comments as well. If you enjoyed this content, I would really appreciate if you could leave a like and a sub on the video, and I hope to see you in the next one.